And you make a really good case that they come to a focus in the greatest capital on the surface of the planet right now, Washington, D.C.
Right, and people should also be aware that, I said earlier that U.S. presidents, Roosevelt, who was responsible for getting the Great Seal put on the dollar bill that anybody listening to this show could pull out and look at, his vice president, Henry Wallace, were very much, they were 32nd degree Freemasons, but they were very much involved in mysticism. And I should also say, not every 32nd degree Freemason is involved in some global conspiracy to bring about the incarnation of the Antichrist. Most of those guys view themselves as being part of a fraternity. Mm-hmm. They pool their resources. They do a lot of good charitable deeds. So this is not an attack on them. This is recognizing that among the founders of this country, there were some who were adepts of the occult order. They were true believers. And they had, now you said earlier that we are the restrainer. I guess a way that I look at this is that occult forces have a scheme. They have a plan. And it seems to be culminating toward the year 2012.
Yes.
In the end of the day, it's going to be Jesus who says what does or doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And it could be the presence of the church in the world that restrains any of this from ever even coming to pass or in the near future. But I guess that's the way to look at it, is they have had a scheme for a long time. And it seems to, if 1776 on the Great Seal of the United States represents the beginning of the 13th Khatun, which according to the Mayan prophet it did, 13 steps forward ends in the year 2012, over which this all-seeing eye is hovering. Well, Henry Wallace, who was the vice president, he was an adept of Agni Yogi Society founder and Theosophist Nicholas Roerich. They all believed that this New Deal was also the launching of a new age, that they were setting in motion a mystical order that was going to culminate in the near future. And they actually wrote about it. Wallace wrote about it in his own biography, that this was a prophecy on the Great Seal of the United States, and that when the great architect of the universe returned and was made known, that the pyramid would be capped and the United States would take its rightful place as the leader of all of the world, as the leader of the nations of the world. I mean, they were very much believers that this mystical concept was going to be manifested, and apparently toward the year 2012.
JR, I know you've got something to say there, but at this point I want to interject that in this book you've got a kind of a diagram of the 13 steps of the pyramid that is on the back of the dollar bill, and analyzed in a way that I've never seen it analyzed before, and corresponding to that Mayan date, 2012, which, wow, what a concept.
Well, and then just one other thing very quickly. To understand the true lost symbol that I'm sure Dan Brown did understand, for some reason decided not to describe, it actually incorporates much of government center. In other words, this belief system is also reflected in the dome and the way it is laid out in Washington, the way the lines are set together, and the obelisk known as the Washington Monument. The dome and the obelisk, that's an ancient alchemical blueprint.
Yes.
It was in Egypt. The dome represents the womb of Isis. The obelisk represents the missing male phallus of Osiris. And at the largest religious constructs ever built, like at Karnak, magic was performed for one purpose: to bring up this seed of Osiris through the obelisk, the Egyptian obelisk, to emit it into the dome where Pharaoh was, so that he could experience transmogrification and become Horus, the reincarnated Osiris. And during his lifetime, he represented the seed of Osiris on earth. At death, he experienced apotheosis, which you see in the U.S. Capitol Dome, Washington experiencing, and goes back down into the underworld. But these were constructs. The dome, the obelisk, they very much play a part. For what end? To actually cause this prophecy to reach a point in fulfillment. When we traveled, my wife Nita and I, we traveled to the Hara Dome in Washington, D.C., which some believe is the true power behind Washington, D.C., some of the conspiracy theorists, right?
Yeah, now say that again so that people will get it. What place are you talking about?
The Hara Dome, also called the House of the Temple, if somebody wants to look it up like at Wikipedia. This is the headquarters of the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemasonry. This is their headquarters where they have their meetings. And when a person, if they're lucky enough to do it there, when a person goes from a 32nd degree Freemason to a 33rd degree, they would go there and they go through a ritual called the raising ceremony. Now, why that's important is because the raising ceremony is a parody of the raising of Harem Abif, who their own scholars admit is Osiris, raising the seed of Osiris, raising him from the dead. Now, what I had been made to understand is that while much of the public may be aware of that magical ceremony that parodies raising Osiris from the dead, that at the inauguration of every United States president, this is what I was told privately, that ceremony is also conducted to raise the seed of Osiris into every reigning U.S. president. Now, it's believable because in the dome and the apotheosis of Washington, that's depicted in art, that's exactly what is happening. And when he died, Masons at the funeral of Washington cast sprigs of acacia upon him, and according to the official record, to represent him going down into the underworld to take the role of Osiris, so that Horus could be incarnated in the next president. That is the system. That's undeniable. Well, but what I wanted to know was this ritual actually being conducted in the temple room, at the house of the temple, in the Haradome? So we went there, we met with them. They answered every question. They were very cordial, they were very nice. When I asked that question, one guy left the room and the other would not answer. He would not say that's not true. He simply would not answer that question. So a bit of mystery remains, but the bottom line is, if you want to know what the lost symbol is, to use that kind of modern language, it's actually the whole layout of Washington, D.C. is meant as an alchemical utility. Not turning lead into gold, not transmuting lead into gold, raising through the obelisk and the dome into every United States president, and may even explain why they go there at death to be eulogized and whatever. Walt Whitman, when Abraham Lincoln died, Walt Whitman eulogized him what? As the American Osiris. There is a theme. If you walk through those corridors, you'll see images of George Washington as Zeus on his throne.
Well, friends, if you want to experience this dissertation that Tom, you can see he's a man who has studied a great deal. And if you want to take time and experience all these facts put together in a way that you can understand them, the book is Apollyon Rising 2012.
Yeah. And you can order it from us for $15.95 plus shipping and handling. Just call the phone number at the bottom of your screen. That's 1-800-475-1111. I hope you'll order it from us today. Now, Tom, in the Bible, which the New Testament is written primarily in the Greek language, even those books that were written in Hebrew have been translated. The earliest manuscripts we have are in Greek. And when we get to the book of Revelation, we have the Greek culture as a part of the mythology of the Greek culture, as a part of the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. So we have, for example, in the letter to Pergamos, the seat of Satan at Pergamos, which is the throne of Zeus, or Jupiter, from Greek mythology, who was the father of Apollo. When we get over to chapter 9, we have this star falling from heaven and opening the bottomless pit, and then out comes all these demonic creatures which create problems for mankind for 5 months. I don't know if that'll be a UFO invasion or what, but it sounds like the possibility. But his name is Apollo. That's the son of Zeus. And then we have Jesus talking about the son of perdition, referring to Judas Iscariot. The word perdition there in the Greek is Apollyon. And then we have the Apostle Paul writing about the Antichrist as the son of perdition. And again, the Greek term is Apollyon, which is a form of Apollo. So we have this ancient Greek Apollo as actually being a real entity, a fallen angel, a demon of some kind. And yet he comes. Will this be the Antichrist, or will it be some power that will just simply, an esoteric type power that will possess the Antichrist? What do you think?